Chapter 8 is the opening of the seventh seal. John first saw the scroll in the right hand of God in chapter 5. The Lamb takes the scroll from his hand because he alone is worthy. In chapter 10, the mighty angel descends with the scroll in his hand, and John is instructed to take the scroll. The contents are revealed to us, the servants of God, from chapter 11 onwards. Thus, we have the complete chain of revelation which was summarized in chapter 1, verse 1. God to Jesus, Jesus to the angel to John, John to us. Chapter 6 described the breaking of the first 6 seals. Chapter 7 had a pause. There are 2 reasons for it. The first is that before the final outpouring of God's wrath, the faithful must be sealed. The second is an answer to the question of the martyrs under the altar in heaven, who cry out to God when the 5th seal is broken. They ask, "How long, Sovereign Lord?" The Lord tells them to wait a little longer because the full number of martyrs has not yet come in. This messianic army in chapter 7, the 144,000, are that final number. These are the ones who will follow the Lamb into death, who will wash their robes in the blood of the Lamb. It is for their witness that they will be martyred. The reason that we know this is the Messianic army is that there was an expectation that there would be a final war between the forces of darkness and the forces of light. The faithful would participate in this way. In the Old Testament, a census of the Israelites was taken in order to assess military strength. That is what is happening here. But the mystery that is soon to be revealed is that the way in which the war will be fought, or at least the way in which the Christians will fight, is not with weapons, but with truth, with their testimony and witness, and steadfast refusal to believe the lies of Satan or to worship his images. It is in this way that Christ will conquer and rescue people from every tongue, tribe, nation, and people. This army is not sealed simply so they can escape the troubles to come. They are sealed because they belong to God and will therefore testify to him. This done, the 7th seal is broken at the start of chapter 8. There is silence in heaven for half an hour. The reason for the silence is that the prayers of the saints are about to be offered with the incense, and those who worship in heaven fall silent so that those on earth can be heard. This is why the incense offering at the temple was offered silently. The smoke of the incense rises with the prayers of all the saints. The prayers are for the judgment to come, and God answers through the action of the angel, who scoops up fire from the altar and hurls it to earth. The disturbances in creation, which intensify with an earthquake, signal that God has arrived for the final judgment. We saw this storm phenomena back in chapter 4, verse 5, where these sights and sounds came from the throne. When we get the first description of the final judgment and the revelation of God at the end of chapter 11, the opening of the heavenly temple and the vision of the ark inside it are also accompanied by these storm phenomena. Then the 7 angels who stand before God, who had been given 7 trumpets, get ready to blow them. Like the breaking of the 7 seals, the first 4 belong together. Trumpets were used in holy war, most famously against Jericho. These first 4 are aimed at the 4 aspects of creation, which are also the 4 sources of life for humans: earth, sea, fresh water, and the heavens. The final 3 trumpet blasts, recounted in chapter 9, will target humans themselves. It is important to understand, however, that these trumpet blasts are not yet the end. They are still aimed at bringing about repentance, as the end of chapter 9 shows. For this reason, they are intensified over what happened with the 4 horsemen, who had the power to harm a quarter of the earth. Now the power to harm is increased to 1/3 of each region. The results of each blast are like the plagues on Egypt in Exodus. The first is like the seventh plague in Exodus 9:24-25. The second is like the first plague in Exodus 7:20-21. The third does not have a likeness in the plagues on Egypt, though the outcome is the same as the previous one, which is ruining the drinking water. Wormwood is mentioned a number of times in the Bible. In Jeremiah, the Lord gives the people wormwood to eat and poisoned water to drink in chapters 8, 9, and 23. Although bitterness is the outcome of various sinful acts, it is also associated with God's punishment for idolatry, which is its likely meaning here. The fourth trumpet blast is like the ninth plague on Egypt, the darkness of Exodus 10:22-23. The eagle flying in verse 13 is an image of impending judgment drawn from many places in the prophets. Hosea 8:1 and Jeremiah 4:13 are probably the most relevant texts. The eagle here separates the first four judgments from the worse ones which are to follow. As we noted before, Jesus as the Lamb is the Passover Lamb, by whose blood the people of God are rescued from death and led out of the land in the Exodus. These plagues here likewise signal not just imminent judgment, but the new Exodus which is about to happen for God's people.